Hello everybody, coming to you from the other side of the world. Now, you may note I'm wearing your t-shirt. I'm an intrepid viewer. And I just wanted to remind you they are available. I'll put the link up. And Dave from Moonride is just about to release another design, which is the Truthless Tiger. Right. Now, the shirts are more expensive than we'd like, and that's because we insisted they be made in America, and they could be half the price if we had them made in Ivanka's factories in Asia, but if you buy a t-shirt, it's supporting American manufacture. Okay, now before we get to the debacle in Iowa, I've got questions from viewers here I'll be working through today. The Mango Mussolini. Some of you have been calling him that for some time. I, of course, refer to him as the Yeti. But the Mango Mussolini, is this not an extraordinary development on top of everything else that he says and does? You know, the lies, the crashing and trashing of norms, everything he does. Apparently, he now wants any new government buildings to have the architectural design run by him, branded, obviously. You know, the Trump Department of Energy or the Trump, you know, production of cars or something. I mean, this is full-on authoritarian stuff. He's moved into scary territory now. And we'll be looking at that more closely probably in the next video. But today we're going to focus on Iowa and lessons learned in Iowa, or let's hope they've been learned. I have a real problem with how the Dems responded. I mean, people were angry and upset and all of that. But the public face still was, oh, this is terrible what's happened in Iowa. You know, we might have to sack the head of the DNC thing in Iowa and all of that. Republicans would have come out screaming, going, interference, interference. This was time they should have leapt to that. The American voting process is under assault. We all know that one way and another. And they let that go and just sort of owned it. Oh, it's so embarrassing. They've got to do better than this, guys. They've got to do better than this. So my first question from a viewer was the Dems. Now, with Biden, who's looking really sad, and there's nothing to suggest New Hampshire is going to be an improvement. I said months ago, did I not, viewers, he hasn't got the energy for this. At this time and place, he has not got the energy. The last person you want up against Trump is your favorite nice guy uncle, you know. No. So that leaves Bernie and Buttigieg, and Amy Klobuchar is a sleeper. And keep an eye on Amy. But the question from the viewer was, will the Dems defy the caucus and not support Bernie? So I guess it's, will they sabotage Bernie? Will they sabotage Bernie? Will they sabotage Bernie? There we go. Queen of Cups, Strength card, King of Swords, compromise have you made? It's hard to say in a way. There's sort of dueling energy here. So in the middle, Queen of Cups, this is the Queen with the hearts and minds of America. So I think this is the emotional choice, which is Bernie. There's strength to his position and to his campaign. So he's still got strength. Then comes the King of Swords. I'm going to have to use clarifiers on this, because is it the King of Swords meaning truth will win out, and if he gets the most votes, he will go forward? Or is it the ruthless King of Swords that will just override him? So this is a key card, and for me, it's not clear. I will do a clarifier on it. The outcome to the question card, other than that, is the Six of Pentacles, which is very much compromise. So again, does it mean they'll compromise? They'd rather another candidate but will support Bernie? Or is it compromise corporate Dems versus the new generation of much more egalitarian values, much more separate from the corporate world? So let's do the clarifiers on those. I'll use my little e's. So this is the question about Bernie. Is he a clear front runner? If he's a clear front runner, will they let him go forward or not? Will they let him go forward? Will they let Bernie go forward? Oh, the husband and wife, the happy home, and a baby. It's very marital. What is that about? It's an adult baby. Might be Trump, of course. There's a jealousy here to this card. Donna Maritata, but it's also called Perfida and Gelosa. Sorry for any Italian viewers out there. There's a jealousy about Bernie's popularity. Yeah. So that's to me saying that they could sabotage him. But what about the bambino cadore? See how it's a weird sort of adult baby? Let's do another one on that. So they'll wrestle with it for sure. And will the jealousy win or not? Let's ask that. Will the jealousy of or insecurity about his popularity prevail? Insecurity. All right, friendship in the end. Things are so dramatically different in this era. I would say from this card, Amico and friendship, the jealousy of his popularity will come out. It'll cause some people to, behind the scenes I'm talking, not want him to go forward. But I think the bigger picture they would, funnily enough, if it's clear. He would still, there's still Buttigieg in the way, and there's also Bloomberg. Now, speaking of Bloomberg, 3 people sent me the same link. So I thought, you know what? I can't avoid this. I have to really engage with this link. I get deluged and sent, dozens of links a day of all good things. And I thank you all for that. But I can only get to so many of them. But this one, 3, boom, boom, boom. Rick Wilson, I think he was a Republican who's now gone to the other side in the sense of he will throw all his professional weight behind anything to stop Trump. So I've read a few of his articles before. The name's Rick Wilson. And I've liked what I've read because we've got to hear that voice. The disenchanted Republicans are such an important voice in this election. Anyway, this is a video. It is about an hour. He's talking about what the Dems have to do to dethrone Trump. And And I think he makes some really good points. And in his opinion, Bloomberg's the only one that actually has the gravitas to take on Trump. But I'll look at that in more detail in the next reading. What's happening now? What was my next question? Oh, the prayer breakfast. What an appalling performance that was. I'm sure you've all seen it ad nauseum, so I won't go on, but suffice to sum it up by saying he opens the national prayer breakfast with newspaper headlines of him being acquitted. He swore, talking about all this impeachment stuff as BS, and he just blathered on about wanting to destroy people, describing Schiff and Nancy as, what was it, vicious people. Talk about projection. There were titters in the audience, awkward sort of laughing moments, but since then, there's been a lot of flack by mainstream Christians about it. There's been rabbis who've been upset. You've had Baptist ministers who've actually come forward and said this was appalling. So my next question, which was a question from viewers, will the prayer breakfast in any way peel off some of his Christian support? The prayer breakfast. The prayer breakfast. You'd like to think so, but no guarantees. Did he lose anybody significant with the prayer breakfast? Oops. What fell out was the 10 of Wands. The card of hard work and the martyr. We have the King of Cups. Ooh, Three of Swords, Page of Wands. Look, this is a cycle of completion. So in light of the viewer question, which was, would it have any impact on the Christian body? Tens are the end of a cycle. In other words, this is saying very clearly to me, it's been hard work. This is a card of hard work. It's been hard work supporting Trump when he keeps shooting himself in each foot. When he keeps putting then, you know, the most appalling, crude stuff out there, very hard for them to keep supporting. Tens are ends. I think it's the end for some of them. It's another question whether it's enough, because right over the 10 of Swords, he's broken their hearts. Right. So King of Cups, father of the nation in some ways. Trump is the father from hell. Then the Page of Wands, speaking to truth. This is the card of the orator, speaking to truth. This was Mitt Romney's words in their ears. And you've got to love Mitt for saying what he did. Although it shouldn't have been such an exceptional moment in American history that someone stood up for their own values, values of the party. It's become this extraordinary event, this profile in courage. I'm not dismissing him because he's in a very hostile environment. I have huge respect for Mitt Romney for doing it. But you take my point, viewers. What has it come to? So in answer to that question, I think it was the end for some whose hearts were finally broken, realizing what was going on. This even looks in this deck, normally this can be a very nice card, the King of Cups, the kind father, but it almost looks like Trump there in his glad rags. And they have to speak to truth. So the answer is, I think he did lose some, and no doubt more women than men, because men are more prone to la 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 regardless. But a lot of allegedly Christian women have continued to support Trump. I think those numbers are falling. But because this is such an extraordinary time, I wouldn't go, oh, he's lost the evangelicals or anything like that. You've still got Franklin Graham and others who are full-time, spending their time and their fame and their positions in defending the indefensible. You know? So I've got time for one more question here. Let's look. Okay, these primaries are exhausting, aren't they? They are really awful. We don't have this process in Australia. Right? If you're a paid member of the Labor Party, the Liberal Party, or the Nationals, you get to vote for a leader behind the scenes. It's a very low-key affair. It isn't this huge televised phenomenon. It's an honour system, you know, like behind the scenes, oh, more people voted for this one or that one. You've always got what we call in Australia the head kickers who try and influence people. It's not a totally pure system, but the vote itself, you know, is neither here nor there. The American democratic system itself, even when it was allegedly working, it is so complex. No wonder so many people are disengaged. We were laughing on, and I haven't got Twitter, but I'm on a text feed with the journos and the lawyers, and we were saying the other day, there are 4 of us, and we've probably got maybe 8 or 10 university degrees between us, and we are struggling to work out how your system even works. You know, it's crazily difficult. It needs to be streamlined, simplified, and brought into line with the rest of the democratic world. It's needlessly complicated. Okay, so my last question of the day is I'm going to look, at a quick look at what's the most important thing for the Dems to do now, right now. This isn't an in-depth. I will do an in-depth on their strategies, but I'm just going to look now. What is the most important thing for the Dems right now? What's the most important thing the Dems have to get organised right now? For Dems, what do they need to do right now? There's an urgency to this question. So thank you for saying, you know, keep asking the questions. I get to as many as I can. Oh, they have something. Oh, sorry, viewers, intrepid ones. I do apologise. Okay, 5 of Wands, Queen of Pentacles. Well, no mysteries here. You wouldn't even have to be a tarot reader to work these out. Stop the internal conflict. It is pointless. It's not about winners and losers in the Democratic Party. Just stop it. Stop it. Okay. Queen of Pentacles, who in this case is Nancy, looking very young and beatific here. Nancy's been fantastic and still has a role to play as the warrior queen. But she also has another role, or another crown, if you like, which is representing traditional corporate Dems. And she has to really make this possibly the last big judgment, the really critical judgment of her tenure, is how she balances the friction and the fighting and the 2 camps, let's say, narrowing it down to 2, which is the progressives versus the conservatives. And I can tell you something for nothing, Nancy, please, 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 please think about this very carefully. Outcome, they have to pull together, group work. They must pull together. Look, I'm sorry, but they've handled these debates so badly. Every debate should start with each candidate saying, you're going to hear how we are different from each other in this debate. And for those of you who really care about the fine print of policy, this is really important. But please know every person on this panel is committed to ousting this man. That should be what they start with. And they should have the debate and then finish with every person on this panel is better than the authoritarian, silverback, knuckle-dragging, Neanderthal nightmare who is in office, right? That's your job. Bookend. And each say, I'm going to support any of these candidates over this man, and you should too. What we are talking about is important, and in a normal election would be the most important thing. But this is not a normal election. They have to take it head on. This mealy-mouthed stuff, just ripping each other apart. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So I'm going to come back with a much more substantial reading, but that's it for now. I wanted to say hello, how much I love you. It is an absolute privilege to be doing this work. Thank you, guys.